Winter, an improvised mystery by Shorty. Let's see where this audio takes us. Veronica. The library was a quiet refuge and seemed dark against the glare of the sunlight outside, almost like a church, a place that you automatically wanted to whisper and tread softly. Glancing around, I saw Mrs. Dooley. Good God, was she still alive? She must be, well over 80. I guess she was just one of those people that always looked old. Her head was down, buried in a book. I watched as her bony fingers turned the pages. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes intent on the text. At one point, her mouth formed a small O, and she clasped at her neck, and then put the book down to clean her glasses. I made my approach just as she lifted the book back to her face. I could see it was one of those trashy romances. A swarthy man had a voluptuous wench in his grasp, and they struggled above a cliff. In the background was a shipwreck. The title, Wrecked by Passion. I smiled to myself and cleared my throat. Hello, Mrs. Dooley. Satisfyingly, she jumped and flushed again, hurriedly putting the book down. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you. She asked me what I needed. Well, can you point me in the direction of the archives section? I want to look at local history, old newspapers and such. She nodded and came out from behind the reception desk. I followed and matched her quick pace. As we walked, stepping from hard parquet flooring to the odd rug, our footsteps loud, then quieting, on each island of matting. From what I could see, the library was empty, apart from one lanky, floppy-haired teen wearing a grey beanie, who was hunched over a large black tome. He didn't look up as we passed. Mrs. Dooley led me down some steps, where the library got even darker, if that was possible. We walked down a long corridor, as if walking down into the belly of a beast. The smell of old books and strong furniture polish that was noticeable in the library above now changed to a more musty smell, like old parchment and mildew. The air felt thick, and I imagined I was breathing in dust, and already feeling a little scratch and a tickle at the back of my throat. We passed a few doors and went down a few more steps, into a large room that was filled with shelving. They were all crammed together, and at the end of each one, there was a wheel, and all the shelves were on some kind of track. I turned to ask, how to use it and what to do, but she was already on her way out, turned on her heels, and was scuttling away. Back to her passionate romance, I guessed. She must have got to a juicy bit. I could see on the shelves that were visible large box files, labelled some with names, some alphabetically, and some numerically, which was confusing. At the end of each shelving unit, above the wheel, there was simply one letter. Each shelf had one letter of the alphabet, but I wasn't really sure what I was looking for. I plumped for W. Sadly, I had to work my way back in, starting with Z, turning the wheel and making enough space. By the time I hit W, I was exhausted. But as the final wall of shelves moved on its track, I felt gratified as I stepped into the space I'd made, just enough to stand up in, and maybe crouch, to look up and down the shelves. I studied WWW, WIWI. Winter. There were several files on winter. The first were actually about winter, the season, storms and such. The Great Freeze of winter 1784. And stuff like that. Although interesting, it wasn't what I was here for. Eventually, I found it. The Winter Family History. I pulled out one file, which was telling about the first ever winters that built Winterfell and the town. I put that under my arm and looked for some more. There was another that just seemed to be newspaper clippings. I grabbed that too, and headed for the small desk that I'd noticed on my way in. It sat under a vent and some piping. Thankfully, it had a small lamp which illuminated the dark corner. I sat, feeling really excited, and eager to find out all the mysteries. I wonder if I was allowed to take these files out. Quickly, I opened the file with the newspaper clippings and went through them. A lot was about the Winter family and their industry, their great works for charity, various fundraisers and parties, a few of great-great-grandfather's shady deals, but he was acquitted of those. And I saw one. Theodore Winter. The most eligible bachelor. Has he finally been snagged? Teddy Winter was seen out with a new girl, a Miss Viola Chase. The pair were photographed in the early hours of the morning, leaving the Fenwick Arms, which is known to be Mr. Winter's favourite watering hole. They also do rooms. A source said they seemed very friendly, but in a hurry to get into a taxi that was waiting. Will Theodore Winter be the first down the aisle? Will this add to the rivalry between him and his brother Tobias? As this reporter can say, Theodore Winter has already explained he was always the first for everything. First to walk, first to lose a tooth, first to ride a bike, and maybe, this reporter can hesitate, the first to get married. I stared down at the picture. A tall, handsome young man. Yes, he did look like his brother, Tobias. But his face had a lightness, a friendliness. It was smiling for one. And mother looked so young, so beautiful, as she bends down to get in the taxi, but is clearly looking at the camera. I wonder if I can get copies of these. I long to know more about this romance. What happened? I set that one aside and looked for some more, making sure to find the ones in the right order. The next one was the front page, albeit the local rag. Winter Scandal. After several months of following this couple, this reporter can say that they look very much in love. But is something brewing? Miss Chase has been ill of late and has left a few functions early. Many were concerned about her health, but of course the rumour mill has started, and shall we say a few people have noticed that the beautiful Miss Chase is positively blooming. A town local was heard to say, well, it's not the first time a young lass had found a way to bag herself a millionaire. There was a picture of the couple, he in a dinner suit and her in a beautiful beaded dress. I recognised that dress. My heart did a little flip. I've worn that dress. I had a pang of longing, and I traced mother's face with my finger. She looked radiant and happy, looking up at Theodore, and he also, looking down at her. There was no mistaking. They were in love. They looked like the perfect couple. If only I could have known you. I wonder what life would have been if you had actually been in my life. I thought as I looked down at a handsome man. But I continued. I felt like I was ever so close. I loved to find out about my family. I wanted to know everything. No more secrets. No more hiding in that huge house. I put all the papers back into the file box and carried them out, up the steps, and back into the library, and back to the reception desk, where Mrs. Dooley was still entrenched in the book, licking the tip of her finger and turning yet another page. I put the two huge files atop the reception desk counter, and Mrs. Dooley reluctantly put her book down. Well, my darlings, I hope you like that little improvised audio. If you do, give it a cheeky thumbs up. But if you're hankering for something really spicy, join my Patreon. Talking of Patreon, here they are, my wonderful darlings, who I couldn't do this without. Shenanigans, Billy, Oz, Living Lightning, Turt Boy, Pokemon UB, David, Adam Strikers, Nikki Phantom, Pillory Slave, Mordred, Stephen, Fire, Outsider HP, Ted, Jelly Mage, Aaron, Cryptid, Cubby, DZ, Blake, and Samir Hall. Thanks, guys and girls. I love you.